3, 2, 1, go!
Welcome to a series on Kashmir with Asia Central Broadcast. Due to recent events along the Pakistan-Indian border in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, it's prevalent to discuss what's going on over there currently and what's the history of this conflict, of the humanitarian crisis, and where it all began. And so today, in the first of these series, we'll be discussing where Kashmir, its story, actually began. So where it all began, the history of Kashmir, when we look at the dynamics of where the area is defined, traditionally it's been known to be just the Kashmir Valley, where currently the situation as we see unfolding in the news. But after the 19th century, it expanded and included a definition of Ladakh and Jammu, two bordering regions. When we come to ask, the rulership has now been established, how does the Islamic or Muslim influence then start in Kashmir? Well, it's often credited to one man, Syed Ali Hamdani. And Mir Syed Ali Hamdani was a very famous Sufi teacher. He was a poet, he was a scholar, a theologian. And he often traveled the region many times throughout his lifetime. And there were three distinct times where he stayed for extended period. Some historians say there was many other times as well. And eventually he died on his way back from a visit from Kashmir, somewhere near present-day Pakistan, on his way to Tajikistan. In fact, to this day, Tajikistan recognizes him as a very important historical figure in their own history, as he was quite influential in this region, even though he originated from Hamdan, a place in traditional Persia, which is now modern-day Iran. Syed Ali Hamdani, along with him, brought with the Persian culture. He brought with him the Persian carpet weaving and tradescraft. Along with him, many people came, and there were some references that almost 700 Muslim families moved to Kashmir on one of his visits. And that allowed the influence and spread of Islam with the locals. And we notice a lot of their architecture during this time period of the famous mosques and buildings were built in this early part of the Shamir reign, which was the latter part of the 14th century. This influence not only in the local economy and culture, as Persian became an important language and tradition, and along with that, Islamic references and texts, and with the ruling dynasty, cemented Islam in the Kashmir Valley for the next 700 years until today. Syed Ali Hamdani's son continued this in his presence along with his disciples, and even had many texts that helped Kashmiris embrace Islam as their own religion. So he's often credited with bringing in the minting that became important in Kashmir, and the carpet weaving and the Persian culture that became a defining aspect of what we know as Kashmir today. In fact, the cashmere that we hear and the carpets and the fabrics in the textile industry that are famous from Kashmir are known from this Persian influence that Syed Ali Hamdani brought with him. The growth of the textile industry, minting, and the Persian influence, all these factors began to grow in Kashmir and surrounding regions, especially of Ladakh. And that allowed Islam and the cultural aspect of Islam to solidify itself within the region. After the Shamir dynasty, eventually independent Muslim rulers ruled over this region. And there was a family known as the Chak dynasty that began to take rule. It was during this time period that Akbar the Great used a ploy to gain control over the region and conquer it in the name of the Mughal Empire. This occurred when one of their last kings, Yusuf Chak, was called for a friendly meeting with Akbar the Great. And it's often recorded in history that his wife knew that there was something tricky about this situation, as a lot of Kashmiri local Muslim nobles were against the ruler due to his embracing of a unique form of Shiaism, which was against what majority of the populace were followers, who were Sunni Muslims. And that resulted in Akbar arresting Yusuf Chak and taking over his kingdom after a short, brief conflict with his son, and solidifying Mughal rule in Kashmir for the next 200 years. The Mughal influence can clearly be seen on some of the more famous sites in Kashmir. There is the Pari Mahal, which is known as the Palace of Fairies. It's quite known, in which there's a 7-tiered garden that you can see. It's one of the most beautiful architectural pieces probably in the subcontinent. Along with that, there are many Mughal gardens that can still be visited today, known as Shalimar Gardens, and this is one of the unique aspects of Mughal architecture that still exists today, that are very popular tourist attraction sites. Due to the weakening of the Mughal state towards the British entry in the 1750s, the Durrani Empire was putting pressure on the Mughals as well. And Ahmad Shah Durrani and his empire eventually spread into the region, conquering Kashmir in 1751. The Mughal reign came to an end in 1751 when the Durrani Empire under Ahmad Shah Durrani conquered the region. This allowed the Afghans to supplant themselves as the rulers of Kashmir. Unfortunately, one of the first atrocities against the Kashmiri people begins at this date. And their evidence presented by historians suggests that Kashmiris of all likes and religions were suppressed and oppressed brutally during this time period of the Durrani Empire. And this led to the conquering of the region by Ranjit Singh and by local support as well in 1820. Unfortunately, that was short-lived. That began another series of oppression, particularly to Kashmiri Muslims, since that time period until today. Thus ended nearly 4 centuries of Muslim rule in the region, allowing the Sikh kingdom to come in and bring a new phase that we will be talking about in our next episode on ACB, when the Sikh kingdom and along with the Dogra rule will dominate the region until the independence of India and Pakistan. Don't forget to subscribe and press the like button on ACB. Thank you and see you soon.
Subscribe, like and share ACB. Click the bell icon for more interesting videos.